Part 26. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 251. Two red claws swung at the ice and firestorm and countless black smoke tentacles that rushed into the deadly field. The two claws shrouded in countless resentments seemed to have the ability to tear apart all invisible forces. The attacks of the two-headed dog and the strange child were crushed. At this time, Lin Yi made a speed seal with both hands and chased after Hong Liang and the others. After the first wave of attacks was blocked, the two-headed dog and the strange child continued to launch their second wave of attacks. Endless ice and firestorms and black smoke tentacles gushed out of their bodies like a torrent, continuously impacting the deadly field. Their attacks were just to buy time for Lin Yi and Hong Liang. 10 consecutive attacks with all the strange power, without interruption or stopping, almost drained all the power of the two strange beings. In front of them had already become a power barrier composed of ice and firestorms and tentacles. All the roads for the red-clothed figure to pursue were cut off, and the deadly field was also blocked in place and could not move forward. Two huge claws wrapped in blood and black waved wildly behind the power barrier, as if they wanted to smash all the attacks. 10 seconds had passed, and Lin Yi, Hong Liang, and others were already 200 meters away. Each of them was a martial arts master, and it only took 4 or 5 seconds to cover a distance of 100 meters. 200 meters was only 10 seconds. The two strange summons, which had exhausted their power, turned into two black smoke and flew in the direction where Lin Yi was running. At the same time, the ice and firestorm and the power barrier formed by countless black smoke tentacles also erupted with a huge roar. Rumble. All the people on the street were awakened, and countless lights were bright. One after another, figures quietly appeared at the window and began to look for the place where the sound came from. With the attention of countless people, the red figure walking out of the center of the explosion seemed to be affected by something. Every time a gaze fell on her, she seemed to become a little more illusory. When hundreds of gazes fell on her, she had become hazy. Like a phantom, it could disappear at any time. A cold, strange, and hoarse voice sounded on the street. "Am I beautiful?" Everyone whose eyes fell on her heard this dreamy voice. Fear swept over them, making them tremble instinctively, and their hearts suddenly tightened, as if something had grabbed their hearts. A trace of inexplicable coldness surged into their hearts. But the next moment, the red-clothed phantom shattered like a bubble and disappeared from this world. This scene looked very strange, and countless people felt as if they had a dream. Lin Yi, who was 300 meters away, turned around and looked behind them. The red-clothed figure had disappeared, leaving only the ground damage caused by the impact of the force. The light of the true destiny in Lin Yi's eyes flickered, and he carefully observed the area where the red-clothed figure had just appeared. Soon he found something abnormal. That street had a vague sense of illusory overlap. It seemed that something existed at the same level as that street. At this time, as more and more people appeared at the window, they looked at the street. The illusory shadow became dimmer and dimmer, and finally disappeared, as if nothing had ever happened. The overlapping things on the street disappeared. Seeing this scene, he couldn't help but frowned. He felt that this phenomenon was very similar to the situation of the weird illusion. It was an illusory world overlapping with reality, causing an abnormality in an area. And this was also recorded in the black-clothed man's record of weird phenomena. Could it be that the street is changing towards a weird illusion? The weird illusion appeared on the street of Honglian City. This is not a joke. His face changed, as if he thought of something. You can ask Huang Yiming and the others tomorrow and ask them to investigate this matter. If the sky falls, there will be tall people to hold it up. It's good that I can reveal some information. Honglian City seems to be more and more like a dangerous place. I have to store enough power in the mobile thatched house as soon as possible. If it is really as I guessed, this thing will be the last guarantee to escape from the dangerous moments in the future. As the saying goes, the more you plan, the more you win, and the less you plan, the less you win. Lin Yi has always been a person who thinks of danger in times of peace. After realizing the potential danger of Honglian City, he has been preparing for a retreat. The red-clothed figure did not chase him, and Honglian K also stopped and looked at Lin Yi, who was looking into the distance behind him, his face pale. The scene just now made him feel the danger of death, which he had never experienced before. Looking at Lin Yi, who stopped moving, he wanted to urge him to take them back to Honglian Mansion as soon as possible. On this road late at night, even with bright street lights, he no longer had the courage to walk alone. The scene just now brought him too much psychological shadow, and he will not be able to escape from this shadow in the next few years. At this time, Lin Yi turned and walked towards him. The danger has been eliminated, and the red-clothed figure has disappeared. Today's observation may not be able to continue, we will continue tomorrow, and now I will send you back to Honglian Mansion. Honglian K heaved a sigh of relief after hearing this, and followed Lin Yi to the direction of Honglian Mansion without saying a word. When they returned to Honglian Mansion, Honglian K was completely relieved and felt that his safety was guaranteed. At this time, Lin Yi's voice sounded in his ears, "Okay, pay now." Honglian K looked at Lin Yi, with a hint of danger in his eyes. "Pay? If you hadn't let me go, we wouldn't have encountered this kind of thing. Now you still want me to pay. Your behavior just now is naked robbery. If you don't get a penny in court, I will sue you until you go bankrupt." Honglian K returned to Honglian Mansion, and immediately regained his former confidence and tyranny, looking at Lin Yi with unkind eyes. In his heart, all the dangers today were caused by Lin Yi. Now the other party still wants to pay by himself, which is simply impossible. 1,000 gold coins, that's not cabbage, it represents millions of funds, although it's just a drop in the bucket for him. He will never allow others to take advantage of his distress to rob his wealth. Hearing Hong Liang's words, Lin Yi's mouth showed a sinister smile. He, okay, then go to court to sue me. By the way, let me tell you something, everything you've experienced is not over yet. Wait for death to come quietly, stupid idiot. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 252. Lin Yi turned around and walked out of Honglian Mansion, with a hint of coldness in his eyes. If you dare to covet my money, you must be prepared to die. A gentleman loves money and gets it in a proper way. Lin Yi has always adhered to the principle of equal exchange, and this is the first time he has encountered someone who refuses to pay. A wave of anger rose in his heart, and money is very important to him. Honglian K has been on his must-kill list, but he did not intend to do it directly, but he already had a plan in his mind. Let's wait and see. Watching Lin Yi decisively turn around and disappear in Honglian Mansion, Honglian K couldn't help but feel an inexplicable sense of crisis in his heart. He looked at the housekeeper. Let's go to the villa. I want to see Grandma and housekeeper Wang. Yes, master. The housekeeper of Honglian Mansion is absolutely loyal to Honglian K. Although he also knows that Honglian K is not doing it right, he has no intention of saying anything for Lin Yi. What Honglian K says is his life. Even if he knows it is wrong, he will do his best to execute it. In the east of the city, there is a rich neighborhood next to the Blue River, where there are row houses. It is the upper reaches of the Blue River, and the water is the clearest. The slums in the north of the city are the lower reaches of the Blue River, and the water is the dirtiest. A black car is coming here, with Hong Liang, his butler, and a bodyguard in black. He has a strong martial arts aura, at least he is a martial arts master who has entered the level of human immortals. He is responsible for protecting Hong Liang's safety. However, because of Lin Yi's arrival tonight, Hong Liang did not let him protect him closely. But after encountering the red figure, Hong Liang immediately called him over and asked him to continue his business. Only in this way did Hong Liang dare to go out again at night and go straight to his grandmother's house. Soon they stopped outside the gate of a villa that was a bit old. Ding dong. The doorbell rang in the villa late at night, and an old man in a black butler's uniform opened the door silently. He looked at Hong Liang, who appeared outside the door, and asked in confusion, "Young master, why are you here?" Hong Liang had put away his usual tyranny at this time and seemed very calm. "Butler Wang, something happened, and I need your advice from grandma." Butler Wang had a trace of sadness between his eyebrows. He opened the door, and Hong Liang and the other two entered one after another and disappeared into the villa. Not to mention what happened in the villa, Lin Yi had calmed down his anger and returned to the Wanchaiwu. It was not yet 12 o'clock, and the Wanchaiwu was still calm. Brandy, absinthe, and vodka were playing landlord in the hall, with a look of joy on their faces. Lin Yi walked in with a gloomy face, and immediately made them feel something was wrong. Brandy plucked up his courage and looked at Lin Yi timidly. "What happened to the store manager?" Lin Yi glanced at him, and a cold smile rose on his face. He slightly revealed his pale white teeth, just like a beast seeing its prey and opening its sharp teeth. He, I really encountered some unpleasant things today. This is the first time someone dares to default on my account." Brandy's heart trembled when he heard this. He and Lin Yi have worked together for many years. Although Lin Yi always looks very kind and approachable, he pays attention to making money in harmony. Occasionally he does something that makes people angry, but generally he is a good boss. However, there is one thing that Lin Yi cannot tolerate the most. Anyone who touches it will definitely be retaliated by him. That is to covet his money. Once a gangster came to their Wanchaiwu to blackmail. At that time, Lin Yi was not in the store, only Brandy was there. In order to avoid accidents in the store, Brandy paid more than 100 yuan in protection fees and gave up money to avoid disasters. Later, when Lin Yi came back from his trip, he was furious, and looked even more terrifying than now. That night, Lin Yi went to the home of the little gangster and made him feel what pain was, and his bones were about to be torn apart. The man lay in bed for 3 months before he could get out of bed, and he never dared to appear near the Wanchaiwu again. The money that the little gangster extorted was also taken back by Lin Yi. After hearing Lin Yi's words this time, he felt a sense of horror again. He felt that the person who did this would definitely be retaliated by Lin Yi. He couldn't help but think of the fat Hung Liang, the arrogant guest. Could it be the person named Hung Liang? Lin Yi nodded. "It's that guy, he doesn't know how to live or die." He, but that guy got into trouble with something unknown, and now he has offended me. I want to see how he dies. Vodka's eyes lit up, and he hurried over and stood in front of Lin Yi. He raised his hands high, showing his biceps, with a smile on his face. "Manager, how about I teach this ungrateful person a lesson? I'm recovering well now, look." He quickly posed in several bodybuilding poses, with the muscles of his entire body expanding and contracting. With his dark skin, he looked like a perfect fitness man. Lin Yi glanced at him. "This is not as simple as you think. You'd better stay in the store honestly. It's your job to protect everyone's safety. You are not suitable to go out and show off." Lin Yi saw Vodka's mind at a glance. The other party wanted to go out and collect information about the Red Lotus realm. He wanted to find out what kind of power bound him and made him obey Lin Yi's orders. Until now, he didn't know whether it was the power of the strange object that bound him. He only knew that the source of this power came from the parchment contract he had signed. Without Lin Yi's order, bitter love wine and brandy would not tell him any information. The asymmetry of information made him very annoyed, so now he saw an opportunity and wanted to take this opportunity to go out and learn about the Red Lotus realm. Lin Yi naturally would not give him any chance. After all, Vodka's own power reached the second level of the human immortal way. Although the other party's power comes from his own bloodline, it is different from martial arts and strange power. But power is power. Once he goes out, it will inevitably attract a lot of attention and is likely to be investigated. Once there is no trace of vodka's existence in the Red Lotus realm, the consequences will be very serious. In this information age, people without any traces usually mean extraordinary origins. Perhaps smart people will guess something, which is what Lin Yi needs to avoid. Vodka's face was full of smiles when he heard this, but suddenly he froze, and Absinthe beside him laughed at him with a twisted face. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 253. You are so little, Juju, who can't see it? Speaking of Absinthe, he came to Lin Yi with a smile. It's most appropriate for me to take action on the matter of store manager. I'm a wraith. I bring fear to others, but that's my specialty. As long as I take action, the store manager will definitely be so angry, he said while drinking absinthe. The smile on his lips could no longer be suppressed. The corners of his mouth were stretched to the corners of his eyes, and his face was indescribably intoxicated, as if he had once again seen the joy of torturing creatures. Lin Yi rolled his eyes at him. Okay, stop arguing here, this matter has nothing to do with you. The water behind this matter is very deep. I am very interested to see what happened to this Red Lotus. Now that I have an official status, I have to be very, very careful about revenge. As he spoke, a chilling cold light appeared in his eyes. Goo 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 goo. When the time reached 12 o'clock, the classical clock sounded again in the hall of Wanchaiwu. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly there was a knock on the door of Wanchaiwu house, and the door emitted a faint red light. Lin Yi knew at a glance that this was the power of the wish shrine being activated. Since the Shrine of Wishes was integrated into the House of Everything, its activation method has undergone various changes. Note contracts, oral contracts, contracts signed on parchment, etc., were constantly changing in form, which made Lin Yi feel very strange. But after thinking about it, he felt that it might have something to do with the growing number of strange things in the everything room. A calm voice sounded. Is there anyone here? The mountain road is rugged and I got lost here. I hope I can stay overnight. Lin Yi stood up from his seat. At this time, the expressions of brandy, absinthe, and vodka also changed slightly, and they looked cautiously at Lin Yi, who was walking towards the door. They have not forgotten what happened a few days ago. The memory is very deep. They don't want to experience that kind of horror again. Lin Yi stood behind the door. What's your name? Xiaosheng Chen Qiao is a scholar who came to Beijing to take the exam. Can I stay here for a night? Scholar? Rushing for the exam? What the hell? Could it be that this time the wish shrine is connected to some kind of feudal era? After thinking about it, Lin Yi opened the door. When the wish shrine is activated, the situation of opening the door is different from when it is not activated. When the wish shrine is not activated, the outside is in a mysterious state, and strange beings may appear at any time. Opening the door is a very dangerous act. Lin Yi had never opened the door at that time. The second situation is when the power of the wish shrine is activated, he can open the door without any hesitation. The other side cannot enter here without the constraints of the contract. Only then can he safely open the door of the Wanchaiwu house from the inside. Click. The door opened, and a young man wearing a blue robe stood outside. This man has a feather fan and a silk scarf, his face is like a crown jade, and there is a sword hanging on his waist. There is a faint essence flowing around his body, which is a sharp essence. However, Lin Yi's true fate interpretation revealed that the man was seriously injured. But at this time, the energy around this man seemed to have solidified a little, fixing the damage he suffered. For example, Some organs in his body were damaged, but the essence sealed the wounds of the organs, allowing him to act like a normal person. But he couldn't use any force, otherwise as soon as his energy dispersed, he would immediately fall into a state where he couldn't afford to be seriously injured. The state of the person in front of him could be seen at a glance, and Lin Yi's eyes showed a hint of curiosity. "You want to stay at my place?" The scholar nodded. "Yes, the mountain roads are rugged and the wilderness is full of dangers, so I want to use the valuable land to rest for a night." Lin Yi smiled and said, "But I see that you are seriously injured. Although there is a secret method to lock your injuries, it is not like what you said. You are just here to stay overnight. This is not honest." The scholar's expression changed. "How did you tell?" Lin Yi smiled slightly. "This is my ability." "Okay, let's not talk nonsense anymore. This is the house of everything, and this door is the door of wishes. You can ask me for your wishes, as long as you pay a sufficient price. Of course, the premise is that I think I can help you with something. You can call me the store manager." Looking at Lin Yi, who was smiling all over his face, the scholar's expression changed. After thinking for a while, he raised his hands to Lin Yi and said, "Chen Qiao, I probably understand what the store manager said. How far can it go to realize a wish?" Lin Yi thought for a while. "Basically, it includes treatment, dealing with your enemies, or helping you solve certain problems. In the future, there may also be business of extending lifespan." After listening to Lin Yi's words, Chen Qiao suddenly realized, "I know the general situation. So, if I hope that the store manager can heal my injuries and protect me during this period, what price will I have to pay?" Lin Yi smiled slightly. "It depends on what price you can pay. I think the price you pay is enough, then I will take action." Chen Qiao couldn't help but frowned. Lin Yi's words made it very difficult for him to judge. After thinking about it, he looked at Lin Yi. He could feel the energy fluctuations in the other person's body, and his heart moved. "I have a qi condensation method, which can accelerate the liquefaction of essence and complete the first level of liquefaction of the human immortal way, and the speed is 10 times that of ordinary exercises. And there are no side effects. It is a secret method." Hearing this, Lin Yi was slightly surprised. The other party proposed this condition, which made him feel something unusual. This unusualness came from the power system. Among the 3 unknown worlds or regions he experienced, he first came into contact with the same cultivation system as the Red Lotus realm. He was moved. 10 times the speed of liquefaction, this is extraordinary. Thinking of this, his eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a kind of contemplation. He had an idea in his mind. Maybe the cultivation methods of the Red Lotus realm do not only belong to here. It involves many, many worlds. Maybe it's like what was written in the online novels in the past, there are countless worlds. Thinking of this, Lin Yi's heart was slightly excited. He felt that he might be able to appreciate the charm of different worlds in the future. With a slight smile, he looked at Chen Qiao in front of him. "I am very interested in the price you paid. Our deal can be reached. But you must guarantee the authenticity of the technique you provide." "I guarantee that this is a real technique, and anyone can practice it without any side effects." Lin Yi nodded. "Okay, then the contract is reached." The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 254. Just as he finished speaking, the red door in front of him emitted a faint red glow. A note appeared gently in front of Lin Yi, with the content of their conversation just now written on it. After Lin Yi checked the text on it, he threw it to Chen Qiao on the opposite side. "This is a contract. You are at the position of party A and sign your name with your spirit. Once this contract is reached, there must be no violation, otherwise you will suffer the reflection of the contract and die on the spot. So if you have anything to hide, you'd better change it now, otherwise once it is signed, it will be an unchangeable contract. Chen Qiao looked at the note that appeared in front of him, which was densely written with words he didn't recognize at all. But the moment he touched the contract note, he understood the meaning of these words. This magical phenomenon made him feel a little awe in his heart, awe of unknown power. After a little check, he used a little spirit to write his name at the position of party A. Lin Yi smiled slightly, took the contract note handed by Chen Qiao, and wrote his own name at the same time. A red flame burned on the note, and Lin Yi and Chen Qiao both felt a force connecting to them. This is a very special feeling. This force has a strict constraint. Lin Yi keenly noticed the difference between this contract and the past. In the past, he could choose to kill the person who signed the contract to cancel the contract. But this time it seems not to work, and it is clear that the power of the God of Wish seems to have changed again. Interesting, the Wish Shrine is becoming more and more like a real contract item. The contract seems to be more neutral, changing. Thinking of this, Lin Yi thought, in other words, the strange things in the Wanchaiwu will continue to change and become more and more powerful as time goes by. These thoughts only flashed in his mind, and Lin Yi looked at Chen Qiao and waved. "Come in, I'm very safe here." Chen Qiao nodded and walked into the red door. It was not until then that he felt safe and breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Yi pointed to the sofa by the French window. "You sit here, first I will treat you." Chen Qiao still sat on the sofa. The soft sofa made him look stunned. He had never touched such a soft thing. Lin Yi activated the true life source and transformed the technique into King Mugongren Xiandao. He stretched out his hand and put it on Chen Qiao's shoulder. "Now unlock the secret technique on you, I want to heal you." Chen Qiao followed his words and unlocked the blockade of his body's essence. The essence all over his body was collected into the spirit pool in his body in an instant. In an instant, he felt weakness rising from his body, and his face was pale. At this time, a piece of King Mugong essence flowed down from Lin Yi's hands. The majestic power swept through, washing every meridian in Chen Qiao's body. It was full of vitality, nourishing his body, and the weakness in his body was reduced a lot. At this time, a pure white crystal appeared in Lin Yi's hand. This was the vitality he got from absinthe last time. He wanted to try whether this thing had an immediate effect on treating seriously injured people. He handed the crystal to Chen Qiao. "Put it in your mouth." After Chen Qiao took the crystal, he threw it directly into his mouth. Then he felt a mysterious power flowing out of the crystal. The power spread to his whole body, and a warm feeling came from every cell in his body. He felt as if he was in a hot spring, and all the pores in his body were open. And Lin Yi's essence, combined with this mysterious power, quickly repaired the injuries all over Chen Qiao's body. About 10 minutes later, Lin Yi let go. "Okay, your injuries are basically healed." Chen Qiao's essence circulated in his body, and a sharp essence burst out from his body. It made him feel sharp all over, like a sharp sword out of its sheath. The light of the true destiny in Lin Yi's eyes flashed, and he was observing the practice of Chen Qiao. This sharp feeling from the other party made him feel a threat. Lin Yi asked, "Your technique is quite peculiar. It feels very sharp, and seems to be very suitable for fighting, but not for healing. And I see that a considerable part of the damage in your body is caused by forcibly running this technique. Is this a technique that focuses on killing?" Chen Qiao looked at Lin Yi. "Good eyesight. I practice the secret technique of my sect, Sword Seed, and the essence emphasizes the sharpness of the essence. Released through the sword, the destructive power is 2 to 3 times the power of ordinary techniques." Hearing this, Lin Yi nodded. 2 to 3 times the power, this is indeed very powerful, unparalleled in killing. Chen Qiao nodded, but although the advantages are obvious, the disadvantages are also not small. The overly sharp essence puts a lot of pressure on our bodies and meridians. Once injured, it takes more time than ordinary people to recover. There are gains and losses. At this time, Chen Qiao looked at the Wanchaiwu, and saw Absinthe and others. Among them, he paused for a moment on Absinthe, his face condensed, and then turned to look at Lin Yi. Manager, that doesn't seem to be a human, right? Lin Yi nodded, yes, he is not a human, but a vengeful spirit, but they are all my employees. By the way, how did you get seriously injured? Judging from where you are, it seems to be in the mountains and forests in the wilderness. Chen Qiao's face was slightly bitter. I was also very unlucky. I was attacked by mountain ghosts on the road. Those mountain ghosts are extremely powerful and their bodies are as hard as rocks. Each of them can be compared to the first level of the human immortal way. It is very difficult to solve them. And I encountered 5 of them at once. Under siege, I killed 2 of them with all my strength before rushing out. But in the process, I was also seriously injured. If I hadn't used the secret method of the Master's sect, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to get to you. Those mountain ghosts are probably still following my traces. Just as Chen Qiao was speaking, 3 figures appeared outside the door of the Wanchaiwu. They stared at everyone in the Wanchaiwu through the door. The 3 monsters were covered with long gray hair and were very strong, like gorillas. But their heads looked like lions, and they made a goo-goo sound at the crowd. At this time, they looked at Chen Qiao angrily, obviously because he killed their companions. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 255. Chen Qiao looked at the 3-headed mountain ghost outside the door with a gloomy look in his eyes. These mountain ghosts hold grudges the most, and their sense of smell is very keen. Even if you escape hundreds of miles, they can still find you by smell. As long as you kill one of them, they will try their best to catch up and kill you. So this kind of thing can either be eliminated once and for all or left alone. Lin Yi nodded clearly. Are you resting well now? Taking a deep breath, Chen Qiao nodded, I'm already resting. Okay, let's start with your next question. Silently, 4 figures appeared around Lin Yi. Chen Qiao took a deep breath as he looked at the 4 figures that appeared. 4 cold gazes, full of terror and weirdness. Lin Yi took his 4 summons and stepped out to the door of Wanchaiwu. The 3-headed mountain ghost roared when he saw the 5 people walking out of the gate. The huge figures suddenly rushed toward them, and their fists enveloped Lin Yi's front like a violent storm. But what greeted them was a storm of ice and fire and countless tentacles of black smoke. At the same time, the hazy black mist quickly covered an area of several meters in radius. The purple corpse monster jumped up with its huge body and rushed towards one of the mountain ghosts. Violent power exploded from his hands, hitting the mountain ghost's fist. Click click click. The power of the purple corpse monster was so violent that it smashed the fists of the mountain ghost into pieces in an instant. At the same time, countless fists landed on the front of the mountain ghost, and all the bones of the mountain ghost were broken in mid-air, falling down like rags. At this time, the other 2 mountain ghosts were also facing the attack of countless black smoke tentacles and ice and fire storms. The wind pressure brought by the fist is accompanied by terrifying power. Let the tentacles of black smoke and the storm of ice and fire continue to twist and tremble. Boom! The maximum force exploded directly, and the hair of the 2 mountain ghosts was covered with burnt black or rotten marks. At this time, they had arrived in front of Lin Yi. Lin Yi was like a phantom in an instant, transforming into 3 figures and pounced on the 2 mountain ghosts respectively. They roared and attacked the 3 phantoms. But the real Lin Yi had already arrived behind one of the mountain ghosts. The right hand punched the mountain ghost on the back of the head. The punch was like a dream and so fast that it was unimaginable. Click. There was a sound of bones breaking, and the back of the mountain ghost's head was shattered. His whole body trembled and he fell to the ground. Another mountain ghost struck the air with one blow, directly penetrating the phantom created by Lin Yi. Illusion of the human world, once used, is very terrifying and dangerous. If exposed rashly, it would be difficult for ordinary people to notice the danger. The mountain ghost who passed through the phantom was obviously stunned and had no idea what was happening. At this time, the huge hands of the purple corpse monster had already pinched his head. Click. This mountain ghost fell softly to the ground. Chen Qiao from Wanchaiwu looked at the battle outside and was dumbfounded. The group of mountain ghosts that he was tired of dealing with were easily solved by Lin Yi. And the fight lasted less than 30 seconds. His eyes fell on the purple corpse monster. Feeling the majestic power of the other party, he couldn't help but feel a sense of dignity. He is definitely at the second level of human immortal Dao. Such a record is not surprising. After dealing with these mountain ghosts, Lin Yi returned to the Wanqi house through the gate. Okay, all your troubles are solved. Now let's fulfill our agreement. Chen Qiao nodded, and then took out a pamphlet from his arms. This is the qi condensation method. If you don't understand anything, I can tell you in detail. Lin Yi picked up qi condensation method and opened it. It was full of unfamiliar words. He couldn't help but frown, and said to Brandy, "Go get some paper and pen." A few minutes later, Lin Yi began to ask Chen Qiao to explain the contents of the qi condensation method to him word for word. After about 10 minutes, all the 1,000 words in the booklet were translated into Chinese characters. At the same time, there are several special diagrams of meridians running in this booklet, which were also drawn by Lin Yi. After doing all this, he looked at Chen Qiao. "Now there is one more thing I need you to do. I hope you can run this qi condensation technique in front of me. There will always be some differences in translation between words from two different worlds. Lin Yi needs to correct this gap through the observation of the true destiny solution." Chen Qiao was slightly startled when he heard this, but he still directly followed Lin Yi's request and started to operate the qi condensation method. He knew that Lin Yi didn't completely believe him. In the observation of Zhenming Daija, everything was clearly reflected in Lin Yi's eyes. Countless information rushed into his mind like running water, and finally gathered into the qi condensation method. He checked what he translated, nodded, and looked at Chen Qiao. "Okay, our transaction is officially completed. My place is about to close, please go back quickly, otherwise you won't be able to leave." Chen Qiao nodded when he heard this. This Wanqi house always gave him a very strange feeling. Just now, Lin Yi summoned 4 kinds of inhuman beings in succession. All he saw in his own world was a red door. The reason why he came out to ask for help was because of a drive from the heart, and there was some power that made him ask out loud. Everything told him that this was not a simple place, full of unknowns that he could not know. Chen Qiao stood up, holding his sword, and walked out of the door of the Wanchaiwu. When he stood on the land he was familiar with, he turned his head and looked behind him. There Lin Yi was waving at him, "Be careful on the way, and I won't see you off." Chen Qiao looked at Lin Yi and nodded slightly, "Thank you for your help." As the voice fell, the door of the Wanchai was slowly closed, under Chen Qiao's gaze. The red door slowly dimmed and finally disappeared out of thin air. 3 mountain ghost corpses were lying on the ground, and the empty forest seemed very quiet and weird. What a wonderful journey, the Wanchaiwu. A place where wishes can be fulfilled. He seems to say that it can also prolong life. Maybe I can meet this Wanchaiwu again in the future. With a glimmer of hope in his eyes, that is the yearning for the unknown and mysterious, Chen Qiao turned and disappeared into the forest. In the Wanchaiwu, Vodka looked at the door thoughtfully. Absinthe on the side had a dull expression. Obviously, he didn't have the opportunity to appear. He felt lonely. Lin Yi looked at them. "That's it for today. Let's go back and rest." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 256. The lights in the Wanchaiwu went out, and Lin Yi returned to his room. He began to practice the qi condensation method he got today. At this time, he still maintained the qi condensation method to operate the qi condensation method. Both of them have a blessing effect on liquid transformation, and a night passed quickly. When Lin Yi woke up from a deep meditation the next day, he was surprised to find that 15% of the essence in his spirit pool had been liquefied. So fast. This speed shocked him very much. If there is such an accelerated method for liquid transformation, are there similar methods in other realms? Lin Yi had a vague idea in his mind. Maybe he could accelerate the methods of various realms by constantly collecting them. Thus, he became the existence who climbed to the peak of the cultivation realm in the shortest time. This is a path that no one except him can take. No one can switch methods as unlimitedly as he does, and at the same time without any damage. This is something that only those who have both the true destiny and the true destiny can do. A new day has arrived, and a hint of coldness has appeared in Lin Yi's eyes. Hong Lianke had sleepwalking after falling asleep last night. According to my observation, all the reasons are due to his own blood. His grandmother and his son both have this phenomenon, that is, it comes from his grandmother's blood. Investigate from this aspect and see what the problem is with their family. Hong Lianke, the first person who dares to default on my debt, I will not let this account go. Thinking of this, he picked up the phone and dialed Huang Yiming's cell phone directly. Beep. After a few beeps, Huang Yiming answered his call. Mr. Lin, what's up? I want to ask you something. Can I check some people's files? Because it involves an important matter. Huang Yiming thought for a while. Who do you want to investigate? Because some people's identity information is confidential and cannot be checked without permission. I want to investigate the rich businessman Hong Lianke, his grandmother's lineage. Because he came to me yesterday and entrusted a task, so I came to you for help today. Huang Yiming suddenly realized after hearing this is not a big problem. I will ask someone to help you check and give you a reply in a while. Lin Yi nodded. Okay, thank you for your trouble. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yi called Lao Wei again. Mr. Lin? What information do you want me to help you find? Old Wei, help me investigate the information of Hong Lianke's grandmother's lineage. It should be as detailed as possible, even some rumors are fine. Old Wei thought about it and said, it will probably cost 50 gold coins, because Hong Lianke has a strong background and strength in Hongjian City. If I investigate him, I may offend this person. I need to pay a high price to buy this information. Okay, prepare it as soon as possible. Lin Yi is not short of money for the time being, and he can still afford 50 gold coins. Get the information of the Hong Lianke family from the man in black and Old Wei respectively. This can avoid mistakes to the greatest extent. What the Hong Lianke family is experiencing now is related to their family bloodline, so the information must be accurate. Sitting in the lobby of the Wanchaiwu, Lin Yi found Vodka. Vodka is 2 meters tall and wears black leather. He looks very strange in this Wanchaiwu. Every time a guest comes here, he can't help but stare at him. In addition to being a clerk in the store, he also became a kind of mascot. Of course, the handsome absinthe is also loved by many women. It is still morning, and most of the customers are takeout. Vodka and absinthe have basically nothing to do. Lin Yi looked at Vodka. Ask you a question. Vodka stood in front of Lin Yi and said respectfully, Manager, what do you want to ask? Your power comes from blood. Why? Vodka looked at Lin Yi. He already knew that he came to a different world. Lin Yi never asked about his origins, but he knew that this day would come sooner or later. My world is a strange place. It is said that humans in our world had no power at first. But in the long history, humans existed as slaves of other powerful races. and some of them had relationships with those races and became pregnant for various reasons. Gradually, a large number of mixed bloods appeared among humans, and eventually the power of blood was generated. In this process, humans formed their own military countries, relying on the blood power of these powerful races to become stronger. Even based on these blood powers, a cultivation method exclusive to humans was born. Eventually, all those powerful races were swept into the torrent of history. And we humans became the masters of the world. Of course, this information is all myths, and no one knows whether it is true or not. The technology in my world is not advanced, and it has only reached the level of the first industrial revolution in this world. Lin Yi heard this and thought, is that so? Then, is there any blood power that will cause the blood owner to sleepwalk at night? For example, if you dream of something chasing you, then you will approach a specific place while sleepwalking. When Vodka heard this, he showed a trace of doubt in his eyes. I have never heard of this. It's just that there is a method in our world called bloodline tracing. Some evil beings will find a certain kind of mixed blood ancestor. Then through the bones of these ancestors, they will summon the descendants of this bloodline. The descendants who are summoned will unknowingly approach the traps set by these evil beings. There will be the bones of these mixed blood ancestors there. Usually, the purpose of doing this is to collect some kind of mixed blood power bloodline for purification. To make some kind of weapons, secret medicine, etc. Has the store manager encountered such a thing? Vodka looked at Lin Yi expectantly. Lin Yi showed a strange smile on his face. Yes, what happened to Hong Lian Ke is similar to what you said. Someone is plotting against their family's bloodline, or the bloodline of his grandmother's lineage. A few hours later, two groups of people entered the Wanchaiwu, and they left two different reports. Lin Yi picked up the report from the black-clothed man, read it carefully for a while, and slowly put it down. His eyes fell on the report sent by Lao Wei, and after checking it, he slowly put it down. The contents of the two reports are almost identical, except for some differences in rumors. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 257. Hong Liang's grandmother's name is unknown. She is about 95 years old and was born in the year when the previous dynasty fell. She married into the Hong Lian family when she was 25 years old. However, as a noble family of the previous dynasty, the Hong Lian family was wealthy and had many friends. It was strange that there was no wedding ceremony for the head of the family's marriage. After that, Hong Liang's grandmother never left the Hong Lian family. Even when she gave birth to a child, it was done in the Hong Lian family, and the most famous private doctor at the time was invited. So the information about Hong Liang's grandmother in the report is very scarce, or even non-existent. The only thing that can be confirmed is that Hong Liang's grandmother is still alive. She lives alone in a villa in the wealthy area upstream of the Blue River. There is an old housekeeper and some maids who take care of her food, clothing, and daily life. Apart from that, there is no other information. And this is the information written in both reports. There is also a special information in Lao Wei's report, which was obtained from a servant who had taken care of Hong Liang's grandmother before. The content of the information is that Hong Liang's grandmother wore a black headscarf all her life. Once, the servant accidentally saw the burn marks on Hong Liang's grandmother's face. Although the burn marks were not many, they had already disfigured her. The servant was later dismissed and lived in poverty in the slums for more than 10 years. Lao Wei said in the report that his men accidentally discovered it when he was investigating. His wind media usually give some coins when collecting information, and the slums are the best place to get information. The people here are engaged in almost all the bottom-level jobs of all kinds of people. Many times, some clues will be spied by them, especially the reward mechanism of the wind media leaders. It makes many people in the slums pay attention to the collection of information after work. Whenever the wind media start looking for information everywhere, The poor will come to sell their information for a good price to support their lives. When the wind media in the slums began to collect information about the Hung Liang family, the dismissed servant took the initiative to come to the door and revealed the information he knew. Lin Yi looked at this information and thought deeply. It seems that all the problems are caused by Hong Liank's grandmother. Hong Liank's grandfather is willing to marry a woman with a burn on her face. There is obviously an unknown secret in this. Hong Liank has no special power, just an ordinary top martial arts master. The power emanating from his blood cannot be controlled by him, and there is no physical or spiritual destructiveness. Although it looks like blood power, it seems different. Interesting, really interesting. Maybe I have discovered an amazing secret. Who is setting up this game? Want to find Hong Liank's grandmother's blood? Maybe this can be done. With a hint of coldness in his eyes, Lin Yi has figured out how to retaliate against Hong Liank. Looking at the phone, he called Lao Wei. Mr. Lin, is there anything else you need? It's like this, I want you to do me a favor. I hope you can help me spread a message in Honglian City, and also hire a reporter to spread this message in the newspaper. Of course you can also spread this message on the internet and turn it into an urban legend. The time is to release it together tomorrow morning. Old Wei thought about it, that's no problem, but the price is a bit expensive. If you want to bloom on 3 sides, you have to pay another 50 gold coins. Lin Yi said, okay, just do these things, and I will transfer the gold coins to your account. After hanging up the phone, a hint of gloom appeared in his eyes. This time, Hong Liank's matter not only owed him a sum of money, but also made him lose 100 gold coins. This kind of anger is unbearable for him. Haha, Hong Liank, I want to see how you die. Ring, ring, ring. The door slowly opened, and the morning guests filed in, and the Wanchaiwu began to become lively. Lin Yi returned to his room and began to continue to practice the qi condensation method to speed up his progress in liquid transformation. But just when he was about to start practicing, the phone suddenly rang. Picking up the phone, he couldn't help but frown. An acquaintance called him. Hello, Sakuramiya Shirley, how come you have time to call me? Of course I have something to ask you. What's the matter? Someone disappeared in a factory of my family. I have investigated it, but I didn't find any problems. This company is under my name, and it is also one of the assessments my grandfather gave me. Now I need you to help me find the real reason behind these disappearances. You have now entered the level of human immortals, and the appearance fee has increased. 200 gold coins plus a bottle of 10 Ling Yuan pills. Hearing what Sakuramiya Shirley said, Lin Yi said without saying a word, I accepted this task. Send me the details of the task. Okay, I hope you can solve it within 3 days. I will go to the scene to confirm it. Okay, then I look forward to your good news. After hanging up the phone, some PPT files were soon transferred to Lin Yi's mobile phone. He opened the file and looked through it carefully. He had a rough idea of the case. The missing people were a man and a middle-aged man. They were both father and son from the same family. Originally, they worked in a factory of Sakuramiya Shirley's family, and they worked hard every day to earn money to support their families. But the night before yesterday, the father and son were the last to leave the factory, but they did not go to work the next day. The factory manager contacted the family of the father and son and found out that they did not go home the night before yesterday. This matter was quickly reported to Sakuramiya Shirley, which aroused her vigilance. This morning, she went to the factory in person and did not notice anything wrong. A family of 5, all living together. A middle-aged couple, a young couple, and the young couple's baby. The missing one happened to be the middle-aged man of the family of 5. Seeing this information, Lin Yi felt something was wrong. After thinking about it, he took the summoning picture book and left the Wanchaiwu and went to the factory to investigate. This factory is a daily necessities factory under the Sakura Palace family, specializing in manufacturing various ordinary daily necessities. On the way, he notified Sakura Palace Shirley and asked her to send someone to meet him outside the factory gate so that he could go in to investigate. This factory is located in the east of the city, not far from the Royal Cemetery in the east of the city. The Royal Cemetery is where many royal members of the previous dynasty are buried. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 258. Now it has become a scenic spot, receiving tourists from all over the country every day. Lin Yi doesn't understand a place like a tomb. Even if it is a royal mausoleum, why would it become a scenic spot? But all this has nothing to do with him. He took a taxi at random and arrived at the factory gate in half an hour. At this time, a handsome man in his 30s wearing black was waiting outside the gate. This man has a calm aura, obviously he has been in a high position for a long time, and may be the manager of this factory. When he saw Lin Yi getting off the taxi, his eyes lit up and he hurriedly came to greet him. "Are you Mr. Lin?" Lin Yi nodded. "Yes, I am Lin Yi. Who are you?" "I am the director of this daily necessities factory, Zhou Bailong." "It's nice to meet Mr. Lin, your name is well known." Zhou Bailong said very politely, with enthusiasm on his face. However, under Lin Yi's gaze, all the information of this person's body was instantly captured. The other party's heartbeat and hormone secretion were very calm, not as excited as he looked on the outside. Obviously, this is a person who is very cunning and good at acting. Lin Yi saw this and smiled slightly. "Hello, Director Zhou. I took the task of your eldest lady Sakura Miyaswili and came here to investigate the reasons for the disappearance of the two people. Let's go to the scene first." Zhou Bailong immediately made way and said, "Mr. Lin, this way, I will take you to the production line where they work first." Entering the factory, it covers an area of more than 10,000 square meters, with 8 factory buildings, 2 office buildings and dormitory buildings. All the factory buildings are steel frame structures, with white high polymer plastic board walls on the outside. The outside of the dormitory and office buildings are all white tiles, and the whole factory gives people a clean feeling. Under the leadership of Zhou Bailong, they came to factory number 1. Entering the factory, the production line is busy producing products. This factory mainly produces toothbrushes, and about 40 or 50 workers are working on this production line. Lin Yi visited this production line under the leadership of Zhou Bailong. Throughout the process, his eyes were flashing with true destiny, observing all possible problems. But what surprised him was that there was no trace of resentment or strange power. After a circle, Lin Yi looked at Zhou Bailong. "Do these two people have a dormitory here?" "Yes, please go this way, I have sealed their dormitory, and no one can enter. It still retains the appearance when it was first discovered. Miss Sakuramiya also checked it when she came." "Well, let's go and have a look first." Lin Yi didn't say much, and soon they came to the 3rd floor of the dormitory building. In front of room 307, Zhou Bailong said, "Mr. Lin is the dormitory where the father and son live when they work here." Standing at the gate of room 307, Lin Yi's eyes flashed with green light, and then his eyes sank slightly. There is still no abnormal breath here. But he caught 2 similar human breaths, which should be the 2 missing people. His eyes swept across the corridor, catching the breath of the 2 missing people. Soon he began to move, walked along the stairs of the dormitory to the open space of the factory, and walked straight to the gate. Because the 2 breaths were heading there. Zhou Bailong quickly followed Lin Yi. He dared not disobey the order from the eldest lady, and followed closely behind Lin Yi. Soon they stood at the gate of the factory. Lin Yi frowned slightly as he followed the direction where the breath disappeared. "Just go here, I'll do the rest by myself." Lin Yi glanced at Zhou Bailong and did not let him continue to follow him. Zhou Bailong nodded quickly, "Okay, Mr. Lin. Watching Lin Yi disappear in front of him along the road outside the factory, Zhou Bailong immediately dialed a phone number. Mr. Lin walked around the factory and left by himself. It seems that he found something, but he didn't let me follow him. Okay, I know, you don't have to worry about the rest. In the Sakura Palace family mansion, Sakura Palace Shirley's eyes showed a trace of solemnity. I hope there will be no problems. This time a big change is imminent. The master asked me to speed up the arrangement. I hope this matter will not affect my layout. At this time, she was looking down at a report in her hand with a photo on it. Two women, about 20 years apart in age, the younger one holding a baby, sat in the police station with a worried look on their faces. Below the photo was another photo, which a group of people in an office were analyzing. These people are really smart, they want to make a big fuss when they find something. We need to get at least one seat for the missing 12 counselors. Lin Yi followed the two auras and walked along the road. After walking about 2 kilometers, he stood in front of a huge ancient cemetery. This is the royal cemetery of the previous dynasty, where all the royal members of the previous dynasty are buried. His eyes were slightly silent, and he frowned as he looked at the endless stream of tourists coming and going. Under the influence of the auras of many tourists, the aura of this area was a mess. The aura of the missing father and son has been washed away by countless auras. This made him sigh, and a thought flashed through his mind. Why did these two people come here? Judging from the aura they left, there was no third person to coerce them, so they came by themselves. They disappeared the night before yesterday. Two people ran to the royal cemetery in the middle of the night. There is something wrong no matter how you look at it. It seems that we have to go to his house to see what is going on. Standing outside the cemetery, he stopped a taxi and came to a private house in the west of the city according to the information provided by Sakura Mia Shirley. This is the home of the missing father and son. The missing father is Tan Mingyang and the son is Tan Bolun. The disappearance of Tan Mingyang and Tan Bolun is equivalent to the collapse of the pillars of this family. Dong dong dong. There was a knock on the door, and a hoarse female voice said, "Who is it?" Creak. The door opened, revealing a tired face. A young woman about 78 years old looked at Lin Yi with vigilance. "Who are you?" Lin Yi smiled at the young woman. "Hello, I am the detective responsible for investigating the two missing people in your family. I was hired by the factory." The young woman was stunned when she heard this, and then opened the door. "Sir, please come in first. This house is not big, with a small courtyard of more than 10 square meters. Obviously, this family is also a native of Honglian City. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 259. Lin Yi walked through the courtyard and came to the living room. The young woman looked at Lin Yi and said nervously, "Do you have any news about them?" Lin Yi looked at the woman and did not hide it. "I investigated carefully. I found that they should have gone to the royal cemetery the night before yesterday. But after they got there, I couldn't find their whereabouts. So I came to your house to investigate whether there are other clues here. Going to the royal cemetery in the middle of the night, and it's a father and son, there is something wrong no matter how you look at it. So if you know anything, you'd better tell me. Only in this way can I find them, if they are still alive. The longer the time is delayed, the more dangerous it is, and the more I hope you understand." Clang. There was a sound of something falling on the ground in the bedroom of the small building. The woman looked at the direction of the bedroom nervously and hurried in. "Mom, what's wrong with you?" A middle-aged woman in her 50s came out, with a solemn look on her face, looking at Lin Yi in the hall. "You said they went to the royal cemetery." "Yes, It seems that you know something. Lin Yi looked at the middle-aged woman with a smile in his eyes. Then for the sake of their lives, are you willing to tell me? The middle-aged woman's face sank when she heard this. I don't have anything to tell you, you go. As she said this, she turned and entered the house, and a voice ordered her daughter-in-law. Let him leave, we don't welcome him here. The daughter-in-law was hesitant to speak, but she didn't dare to disobey her mother-in-law. She came to Lin Yi with some apology. I'm sorry, my mother-in-law is very emotional because of this matter. I will persuade him well, and I will tell you as soon as I have information. Lin Yi didn't stay here, smiled and nodded, stood up and walked out of the door. When she was about to walk out of the door, the woman's voice trembled a little. Excuse me, my husband and father-in-law, are they still alive? Looking at the uneasy woman in front of him, Lin Yi sighed and said, I can't be sure of this. But they have been missing for a day. If there is a problem, then there is no hope. So be prepared. The woman's face turned pale, and her body collapsed. She looked a few years older in an instant. Shaking his head slightly, Lin Yi walked out of the door, as if he had thought of something. He took out a business card and handed it to the woman. If you have any information, call me. If you want to save people, don't hide it. The longer the time, the lower the chance of their survival. The woman took Lin Yi's business card and looked down. When she looked up again, Lin Yi had disappeared from her sight. Is there anything in the royal cemetery? Walking on the road, Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of thought. This matter must be resolved within 3 days. Sakuramiya surely seems a little anxious. This matter is not easy to handle. 200 gold coins and 10 spirit essence pills are not a small amount. Lin Yi shook his head. There is only one clue now. He will go to the royal garden tonight to have a look. There are too many people during the day, so Zhenming Daija needs to spend a huge amount of spiritual waves to find the breath of the father and son. But it is much easier at night if there are fewer people, because there will be no interference from the breath that increases at any time. Thinking of this, Lin Yi returned to the Wanchaiwu and began to recuperate and prepare for tonight's action. Because of Hong Lianke, rumors about their family will spread tomorrow. If there is really a conspiracy against their family bloodline, then those people will naturally come to their house. He only needs to wait quietly and he can see the ending. A sneer appeared on Lin Yi's face. If you want to blame me, then wait and see. Night came quickly, and Lin Yi went out after 8 o'clock. He brought a complete summoning picture book, and vodka remained in the store to guard and deal with possible special situations. Half an hour later, Lin Yi had arrived at the royal cemetery and stood at the position where the father and son entered the royal cemetery. The true destiny solution in his eyes began to accelerate, blocking all unknown interference information. Only the 2 auras belonging to the father and son remained in his eyes. They had become somewhat dim under the impact of countless auras. Although the aura can be preserved for a long time, it will also be disturbed by other auras. As time goes by, this interference will accelerate the disappearance of the aura. It was only the second night, and the aura of the father and son had begun to enter a period of rapid exhaustion. At most one day, the aura of the father and son will completely disappear from the world. Lin Yi frowned at this scene. It seems that we must find their clues and location tonight. Following these 2 faint auras, Lin Yi soon came to the royal cemetery. This is a huge cemetery covering thousands of acres, which was built by the previous dynasty at a huge cost for hundreds of years. Emperors and empresses of all dynasties are buried here. As for the concubines and noble ladies, if they have descendants, those descendants are responsible for their support and burial. Most of the concubines without descendants would stay in the deep palace until they died of old age, and then notify their former families to come to the palace and transport the remains of these concubines back for burial. If there are no families, they will be buried in the public cemetery next to the royal cemetery. There are 2 largest cemeteries in Honglian City, One is the cemetery in the north of the city, and the other is the royal cemetery and public cemetery in the east of the city. At this time, Lin Yi was walking quietly in the royal cemetery, with a trace of solemnity in his eyes. There is something special in this royal cemetery. So far, he has not seen a trace of resentment, which is abnormal. It seems that this is a park, and there are no bones buried at all. When he was doing tasks in the cemetery in the north, almost all the graves had more or less resentment. The situation in the royal cemetery surprised him very much. Interesting, it seems that the royal family of the previous dynasty has put a lot of effort. The royal garden at night seems very quiet. There are no street lights here, and it is built like a real garden. The ground is paved with pure black slates, along the entrance of the cemetery, crisscrossing the entire cemetery. There are also many pavilions and rockery along the way. The tombs of emperors of various dynasties are separated by a considerable distance and occupy a huge open space alone. The above-ground parts of the emperors' tombs are very solemn, but there are no jade carvings, etc. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 260. The pure black rock carvings look very solemn. Normally, many people come to visit here. After all, the area outside these tombs is like a garden with countless beautiful scenery. It seems to be specially prepared for the emperors to wake up from their graves and come out to play when night comes. Lin Yi wandered around the cemetery for more than half an hour. We came to the emperor's tomb in the deepest part of the cemetery. After looking at the stone tablet, Lin Yi was instantly shocked. The tomb of Taizhu, the most holy emperor of Deu. The inscription is densely filled with his life stories, countless achievements, and so on. Lin Yi couldn't understand those contents. His eyes mainly fell on the other side of the tomb. The auras of father and son are extending towards the other side of the tomb. The surface part of this necropolis looks like a Mayan pyramid-like four-vertebral building. The lower part is hundreds of meters long on each side. Lin Yi walked around the tombstone and came to the left. His eyes looked at the end where the two breaths disappeared. I don't know when a door appeared on the wall of the main tomb on the bottom floor. The two breaths disappeared inside this door, and Lin Yi did not approach rashly. Suddenly, he heard the faint sound of footsteps rubbing together. It was already 10 o'clock in the middle of the night, and he spent 2 hours searching. Why would anyone come at this time? After hearing this voice, his eyes narrowed and he quickly looked towards the woods next to the mausoleum, turned around and rushed into it. He came to a big tree and bent down slightly to hide. The source of his true life was already in motion. The breath all over the body is transformed into the human way of illusion, and as the essence flows in the body, the whole person becomes illusory. In this deep night, it is difficult to be seen clearly. He looked carefully towards the direction from which the sound came. Tens of seconds later, a look of astonishment appeared on his face, and a very familiar person appeared there. It was Hong Liang who had broken up with him last night. At this time, he looked confused and walked towards the tomb as if he was sleepwalking. Behind this man, two figures appeared, neither of whom Lin Yi recognized. One of them is Grandma Hong Liang's personal butler Wang Guanjia. The other one is Zhang Lingyun, a master of human immortality hired by Hong Liang. Tonight, they asked Hong Liang to follow the method proposed by Lin Yi last night to find the truth. With the scene in front of them, they came to the tomb of Emperor Taizhu of the Deu dynasty. Lin Yi saw the scene in front of him. Although he didn't know what was going on, he had a rough guess. There was a hint of gloom in his eyes. Hong Liang really has to squeeze out a little oil from the soil, and you must also use the methods you learned from me. Interesting, it's really interesting. You guys are here just in time. You can lead the way for me. Thinking of this, his hand touched the summoning album in his arms. The figure of the strange child turned into a plume of black smoke and floated out of the summoning album. Hong Lian-K and others were still in front of the curtain and did not come to the side. The door that suddenly appeared on the left side of the tomb was not found. Lin Yi looked at the strange child and conveyed his order. The strange child turned into a plume of black smoke and rushed directly into the dark door. By summoning the link to the picture album, Lin Yi was able to see the pictures that the strange children saw. A black passage with carved murals on all four walls. The strange child quickly followed the black passage and entered the depths of the tomb. The passages here crisscrossed each other. But only one is open, and the other passages are blocked by walls. It seems that this passage is deliberately designed to guide those who enter it, directly to the deepest part of the passage. Let the other party not go astray because of these forks in the road. The strange child walked along this passage, turning left and right, and soon came to the end of the passage, where there was a huge tomb. There is a golden coffin in the tomb, which is located on a huge step. There were about 10 people standing at the foot of the steps, some big and some small. Each one's face was pale, standing there motionless as if they were dead. At their feet, a faint black mist enveloped their lower bodies. Traces of black lines appeared on their skin. And a mysterious man in Taoist robes was sitting next to the golden coffin. His Taoist robes were pitch black and his face was very feminine. He was Xuanhuan who had appeared several times. At this time, this man's body was filled with chilling qi. The strange child was like a wisp of smoke, hiding in the shadow at the end of the passage and did not rush into the tomb. Lin Yi saw Xuanhuan through the strange child's eyes, and immediately frowned. Why is it this guy again? Is he doing some conspiracy there again? Many question marks flashed through his mind. At this time, Hong Liang was already staggering towards the left side of the curtain. Butler Wang and Zhang Lingyun who were following him saw the gate on the tomb wall on the left. The two immediately came to Hong Liang and controlled him. After Guren-K struggled twice. I was woken up by a sharp pain. Where is this? After waking up, Hong Liang saw the two people around him and immediately asked confusedly. The elderly steward Wang next to him had gloomy eyes. Looking at the black passage in front of him, an ominous premonition arose in his heart. As the personal butler of Grandma Hong Liang-K, he naturally knew a lot of things. When this incident first happened, he had a bad premonition, and now he felt that his premonition had come true. Damn it, who dared to blaspheme the royal bloodline? His eyes flashed with strong murderous intent, but at the same time with a hint of caution. He knew that the person who could do such a thing must have an extraordinary origin. He couldn't help but think of what had happened before, the disaster that destroyed the entire royal family. His mind was wandering, and he seemed to see that night. The empire and the emperor of the previous dynasty reached a final agreement. The last emperor announced his abdication and the Honglian Empire was established. The condition was that all the royal children of the previous dynasty retained their original wealth and life safety. The empire agreed, but less than a year after the transfer of power. A royal sacrifice brought a disaster of death to all the royal children. On that day, almost all the royal children arrived, even the youngest princess came to the sacrifice site. A royal garden located in the suburbs of Honglian City, Daihuang Garden. It used to be a place where the emperor went to cool off, magnificent and even not inferior to the imperial palace. It was also the last place of dignity for the entire royal family, showing the former glory of the royal family. On the day of the sacrifice, countless shells fell from the sky and flooded Daihuang Garden, and the royal family suffered heavy casualties in an instant.